YouTubers, and welcome to another episode of Homebrew Wild and Cheap. So I got thinking, could we make a sort of like a kit wine? Just a table wine that you can have for under a tenner. Everything, you know, including your equipment and, you know, just everything for under a tenner. Since Early Tech, hello, sent me a message saying it was a good idea to put in the cost of everything. So I thought I would do one for under a tenner. And that's for all the equipment if you went out and bought it all from scratch. So there's £3 just to have everything here. And that's pectolase, which isn't needed, but I'm adding it in. Yeast nutrient, again, the grape should have pretty much everything in already, but this is just to make sure, since, you know, it's a kit, so why not? Universal wine yeast, I happen to use this as a pound, but I only use a very small amount, so it makes a lot more. Then we've got sultanas. Now these are just the cheap sultanas that you get for like 84p, so we'll call this £3.20 for all of these sultanas. Now they are the cheaper ones, so they do contain a small amount of oil, which isn't what we want for home brewing, but we'll try, we should be able to work that out. So it's going to be awesome. And we've got our 5 litre Ashbeck water bottle, which is unopened, so we don't have to sterilize it. So it's a, you know, it's just a good thing to start off with if you're going to start. And we got some sugar here for 45p, just in case, depending on how it comes out. So this says per 100 grams it is, wow, 69 grams of sugar. It's pretty impressive. So hopefully we should get something around the 9-10% mark. Hopefully. My guess. We will see. I've got my hydrometer sterilizing, but that's not necessary if you use the same type of stuff. So it's all bob on. So we should get started on this project. Here I am with my good old pan on my hob so you can see everything. And we've got 2 kilos of sultanas. So I could cut them up. Ooh, yeah, I have a nasty habit of doing that. So we could cut them up before we put them in, which is another step, but I happen to have a stick blender and that will do just fine since we're going to filter this. So if you ever wanted to know what 2 kilos of sultanas look like, that is what 2 kilos of sultanas look like. Pretty epic. So the wine that we're going to be producing is technically, it would be called an orange wine, and that's because the skins of these raisins, the skins of these grapes / sultanas, because they're dried, is still on here. So we're fermenting like a red wine using white grapes. Interesting. So with our sultanas, what we're going to be doing, because they're going to puff up and soak up some of the water before we blitz them down and we can strain it and everything, we want to, and it's going to reduce as well using heat. So I'm adding in about 4.5 to 5 litres of water. There's that. So now we've got a gallon of water in 2 kilos of sultanas. And just going to let this heat round for a minute. Then we're going to get the stick blender and blend it down inside here. And that's going to get as much of the sugars out as possible and hopefully release any oils or anything. So, give it a good blender. So you should never use this over boiling water, because you can flick and get yourself. This isn't boiling yet. So I have simmered it for 20 minutes. Let it come to a boil and then just turn it back so it's on a simmer. And this is the colour that it is now. Where's my spoon? Typically lost my spoon when I want it. There it is, on top of the lid. And all of the sultanas on the inside have pretty much puffed up. I've given it another blend, and now what we're going to do is just put the lid on and leave this to go cool. If you do it in the morning, it'll be ready to finish in the evening. I'm starting it in the evening, so I'll be back to do the bit tomorrow. So it's been 24 hours, and I've just left this for 24 hours. 1, to cool down, and 2, to soak up the moisture and infuse the flavours. So in our pan now is As you can see, it's swollen up quite a lot. So we're going to strain this off now. I got myself a stocking, because it's like a muslin cloth. I've also boiled this and sterilised it, sterilised everything. And I got a container. It happens to fit quite nicely in here. So that's okay. So what we're going to do now is take it off all the pulp. And this is going to be a long process. It's been about 25 minutes, and that's how long it took me to go through all of this stuff. And there was a gallon of water that went in here, and it's, funny enough, I mean, look at the size of that. It is pumped up and juiced up all of the sultanas. I'm just going to stick them in here. And I've just stuck as much as well, pretty much as much as I can in one of these, just to give it a little press, just to get the last of the syrupy juices off. Because funny enough, they went in dry, and we've rehydrated them, and we want some of the juice out of it. So we've got our container now, which has got all the liquidy juice that we've extracted from all of our sultanas, which have puffed up. And I got a ladder in my stocking, hence why you can't squeeze it too much. So these are now done. So what I'm going to do is bag this up and freeze it, because we're going to be using this for another wine, which I'll do later on. So we'll put that to one side. And now, for ease and simplicity, what I'm going to do with this water bottle, empty it out and pour this straight in and then top it back up. It's a bit of a waste of water, but it'll work the same. So I've just poured all of the water out of this, since we don't know exactly how much water there is here. It's not going to be a full 5 litres, but it's just to make sure, because we want all of this goodness. So in it goes. Bang. So I poured in this and it comes up to halfway, so I'm just going to top it up with water and we'll see if we need to adjust it. Cream in there, why not? So here is our wine that we have extracted from our sultanas, which are all puffed up. So they kept about half the liquid, which is fair enough. I can't really blame them. If I was dehydrated, I'd need a drink too. So now we've got this, I'm going to give it a shake up and we'll see what the hydrometer says to see if we want to adjust it. It really depends on what the percentage is. So according to the hydrometer, this is 10%. Now that is pretty respectable. I'm not going to change anything about this. We're not going to add any tannin, we're not going to adjust it with sugar. It should be perfectly fine. So since we've had this sitting for 24 hours, it could have been infected with bacteria. Now we can boil it again, but I'm not going to boil it because I always boil it because our wine now, and it's looking pretty murky and as such, but it should clear up quite nicely. So I normally boil everything, reboil it, and because boiling has worked for thousands of years to sterilize and sanitize stuff, so if it's worked for that long and it still works just as well today, don't really knock it. But what I'm going to do for a change, because you never see me do it, is I'm going to use a Camden tablet to sterilize and sanitize this. And just take the pill, the little pill-like thing, crush it between some spoons, and work it. One Camden tablet, which has now been crushed down into a fine powder. In it goes. Right, put you in there, since it's all stuff that needs washing again. We're just going to liberally give this a really good shake, and that's going to infuse it with all of the Camden tablet goodness of sodium metabisulfate. What we're going to do now is I'm going to leave this for another 24 hours, so tomorrow in the evening I'm going to come back and we're going to finish this up, because it takes about 24 hours for the sodium metabisulfate to cleanse everything and then clear, so we can add our own yeast and everything into it without it getting infected. So I will see you in another 24 hours. Here we are 24 hours later, and we have our sultana wine mush. all here now, and it's been settling off the pulp, and we've got this ring which goes all the way around, which I believe is the oil. Either way, it's going to come off because it won't ferment with the oil on it. So you can try and pour it out, you can use a spoon to try and dig it out. I'm going to do a bit of a messy way, but it's going to guarantee that all this oil comes out. So I've got myself my old pan, like so, and got myself some water, some sterilized stuff, because we're going to be adjusting the water ratio, so that also affects the alcohol ratio. And I'm just going to top this up until this overflows. I believe I'm just going to push it a bit. So we got a bit of an air gap. So hopefully that is the vast majority of the oil which was in the sultanas out. So just got to give this a rinse now so we can check what the alcohol says. So we've given it a rinse off. As you can tell, the outside is gack free mostly. So let us see what this has come out at now, and we will get it ready for the fermentation. But now it's just slightly under the 10% mark. That's fine, we will live with that. We're not going to adjust it with any sugars or anything. So now comes the good bit. We don't have to add in yeast nutrient, but we shouldn't need to, because sultanas are grapes and grapes ferment on their own. But we just want to make sure that this goes quickly, efficiently, and less chance of anything going wrong, since we used cheap sultanas. So I'm going to take the last of my old yeast nutrient, throw it in. There's only a tiny bit left. Stick it all in. So that is 1 teaspoon of yeast nutrient, just to make sure. We've got ourselves some pectolase. Just make sure it's pectolase. Doesn't smell of anything. So I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, and that's just because we boiled it. It's got the sultanas, which were already dried and processed, so 2 just to make sure. And now, pièce de résistance, our universal wine yeast. So just open it up, and I'm just going to pour in a little bit of a smattering, and seal everything up. Give it a shake, and hopefully this all works. If this all goes to plan, we shall have some nice, kind of clear, whitish wine. And consider it was only like £3. And we've got the sultanas which are left over, which we froze. So we can use that for another brew. So we'll get to that one in a bit. So I'm going to label this up off camera, but this is part 1 of the cheap sultana wine. So enjoy, guys, and I'll catch you later. So that's the video over. But don't worry, if you look up above and to your left, you'll see some previous videos that I've done. If you like the video, please give a thumbs up. The subscribe button is down below. If you don't like it, give us a thumbs down, get the community going. Leave a comment in the section below. It really gives me some motivation, and it's really good to get some feedback from you. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and good luck in your brewing endeavors. Cheers.